You know the witch trials down in Salem, right? You know how many witches they burned down there? 20. You know how many witches they burned in Willard's Mill? 172. And ever since, every sheriff we've ever had has died an early, violent, horrible death.
Except Stan.
It's back.
Kevin, what happened to you?
Fight Club. Skunk attack. Hot coffee.
Conducting an orchestra! You were conducting an orchestra! Okay, do you need to take a minute, or?
The pony needs blood.
Hello, Constable.
I've either gone just completely batshit crazy, or this is God's way of telling me it's time to start doing some real drinking. Jesus God. Change my diaper!
Still have one bullet left.
We may need that one for ourselves.
Then we need 2 bullets.
Right.
How did you get there? Because I know your character kind of all the back, and you have to kind of bring that nuance into a very supernatural, strange world.
Yeah.
How do you fit that into such a small time? Like, what is the film schedule like? Is it just constant?
It's pretty constant. You know, it's. I would say that the actors work far less than the crew does, because there are obviously moments where I'm sitting in a trailer in my hot brown polyester pants while they are still toiling away, or, you know, occasionally this season Johnny and I would even have a day off, the rare day off, which was shocking, and you just constantly are thinking like, oh my gosh, everyone is still there working so amazingly hard. So they are the absolute heroes of show business, but you know, we both really, I think we really like that schedule in a weird way, because it's just down and dirty. It's like you aren't sitting around very much. You are kind of just blasting through it, and you're staying in it. And I think sometimes when things go, in both of our experiences, when it's like you do a week on, a week off, a week on, it's hard to kind of center back into that place of just like, let's knock this out and do it. And so we actually really respond well to that pace, and it's like once you're in it, you're like, that's what you do. We both like that.
So it has you like acting from the gut rather than overthinking.
I think so. I think that's absolutely right, and you don't have time to get lazy. You know what I mean? You just don't have time. So we both really like it, and I like, because I come from improv, I really like the spontaneous energy of stuff. So I'm on another show called You're the Worst, and they have much more time to shoot. And after about the third take on something, my brain is like, I'm doing this wrong. I'm clearly doing this wrong. And it's not that. They just want to have more options. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But I think that typically that's, you know, once you're doing Fast and Furious like that, you end up being like, I don't know if I have much else that's interesting. So, you know. So,
with how fast everything goes, has there ever been anything that you've had to do for the show, and even at season 2, that's kind of pushed you into like some of your phobias that you've had to deal with?
oh,
Like,
great question. Yeah, great question. Well, when I first read I think it was episode 6 of the first season, and there's a giant spider demon person, and I'm caught in a web. We originally had it written that I was in a spider web and I was hanging upside down, and I hate hanging upside down. I wish I were one of those cool people that was like, I have these gravity boots, it's like great for my back, I'm like Batman. That's not how I feel. I feel like my head's gonna pop open and explode whenever I'm hanging upside down. So I was really glad that I didn't say anything. I was like, I'm gonna tough this out. But then they were like, it's gonna be too hard, so I didn't have to do that. Check.
Cheers.
But I also am afraid of spiders. I try so hard to be respectful of them and be like, what a wonderful creature you are. I'm so interested. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, you are somehow smarter than me and you want to take over the planet. I can't let go of that idea. It's really tough. And like, they're predators. I mean, I live in LA, and this time of year, there are these huge garden spiders that kind of look like the Spidey emblem. Doesn't make it any more appealing. They're like orange and black. The body is this big and the legs make it this big, and they build webs everywhere to where the light shine, you know, the light, and then they catch all these bugs. But they've taken to building webs like in front of my doorway.
Yeah, let's go.
So if I'm not checking, it's invisible. You could just face plant right into one of those guys.
You gotta do the whole.
I've been known to wave a broom. It's not very easy to be like, I'm good. Sorry, honey. Yeah. So those were big. This last season, we had this last season I think there were more like creatures that I sort of felt affection for. I was less afraid. I was more like, oh my god, I love this tiny demon baby. And our were-pony that you see in one of these promos is amazing. And Stephen Ogg from Walking Dead came and did it, and he's brilliant. And so there were a lot more like awesome kind of moments this season.
What was your favorite moment of season 2?
Ooh, good question. It was a moment that Dana and I now have as like our inside joke, where our special effects guru named Bob Shelley, who's just this small, quiet, twinkly-eyed, a little bit like Ross Perot, if you remember who that is.
Yes, I do.
He's just like real quiet and nice and very southern. He was responsible for all our special effects, and he had Dana covered in slime. And Dana just like trying to, stay energized and stuff. But he was like, "Hey Bob," as he's walking away, he's like, "This will come out with just like shampoo and a shower, right?" And Bob goes, "Oh yeah. Well," and like we just started laughing. We're like, "That's the last thing you ever want to hear your special effects guy, like reassuring you, and then like, well." So now we do that to each other all the time. This was a really fun interview.
Well, it was very nice to meet. I did the well too.
It's okay. You got to warm up to it. It's okay. It's okay.
So you're
It'll get into
professional.
your
I'm not-
lexicon. Yeah.
I'll work it in. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Should I get a selfie?
Of course,
You guys filmed 8 episodes in 6 weeks? Did you guys do that again?
No, this year we shot 8 episodes in 4 weeks and 4 days,
Oh wow.
which is preposterous, but they came out amazing.
Well, how do you? I know with such a quick schedule, your character Stan's a pretty normal guy, and this is a pretty supernatural, crazy world. How do you balance that with your performance?
Stan doesn't believe in any of it, and so he's a pragmatic realist, and the way he approaches witches is with a pipe and bashing them over the head like anybody would. He doesn't have the wherewithal or the know-how or any kind of real approach of how to deal with witches, and so he just comes from what we would all do. We just gets a pipe and bashes them over the head.
So, what is the biggest influence on your performance as Stan?
The first thing I wanted to do with Stan was find his voice, his actual voice, what he sounded like. And that sounds a little annoying when I was doing it, but I wanted to divorce his sound so completely from Dr. Cox that I wanted to find the tenor of his sound. And I felt validated when I was doing this search, because it was right when Daniel Day-Lewis was playing Lincoln in Stephen's film, and he said he just wanted to find out what Lincoln sounded like, and I was like, I was in the middle of the same search, and what I came up with was it's kind of a cocktail of a little bit of Lee J. Cobb, a little bit of George C. Scott, a little bit of Jason Robards, and a little bit of my father, and those four, you shake that up, that's kind of where Stan lives, his sound. And then I was liberated by that sound, because it's so completely the opposite of Dr. Cox. There's no confusing the two. They're nothing alike anyway, but I wanted their sound to be completely opposite too. And shy of making him a falsetto, it's as far away from Cox as I could go.
Now I see episode 1 of season 2 is a 2-parter. Is that a sign of you guys trying to push what you have done? Like you guys haven't done a 2-parter yet in season 1?
Well, because we finished the first season on a cliffhanger, and there's a lot of loose ends that have to be sewn together. And knowing that IFC exhibits the show in 2 episodes at a time, because it's interesting, last year we delivered them, as one of the producers, we delivered them completely randomly in 2-episode increments, because that's how we were finished post-production. And the head of the network watched them as a result in 2-episode increments, and he just, in a brilliant move, he said, this is how people should watch this thing. And at first your reaction is, oh, come on, you're just gonna, there's only 8 episodes, you're gonna burn them all off in 4 one-night exhibitions? And he's like, yeah, this is how they should be watched. And the reason that came out great is because Stan, the real estate for Stan, the first time you watch it, is November. And so it doesn't trespass into holiday programming. It's just 1st of November, right to about Thanksgiving, or right after Thanksgiving. And it just works. The programming worked. And last year, the numbers started to go through the roof. and hopefully that trend will be the same this year. Stan was very charmed last year, and we'll see if that continues this year.
So what is your favorite part of season 2?
The emotional arc that Dana wrote for Stan. Stan figures out how to get Evie back from a couple of 100 years ago, and with that limited amount of brain space that he has, he thinks if he could get Evie back, maybe he can get his wife back. And that gives him an emotional arc that yielded huge dividends.
Well, thank you for
Cheers,
speaking
brother.
with us.